Every month, my spouse's family is invited to our home for a joint dinner. This includes his brothers, sisters, parents, and nieces and nephews. In addition to our mutual children, virtually the entire family is at these gatherings, excluding the parents of the children of one of my spouse's brothers. The latter tend to use this moment to organize the visits, entrusting me with the care of the little ones without requesting help from other family members. Thus, I find myself responsible for supervising not only my own children under a certain age, but also my husband's younger nephews, who are under 5 years old. As a result, 6 children under the age of 5 are in my care since no one else takes the initiative to take care of them during our family dinners. The last time we gathered, we were warned in advance that some of the children were sick. My husband urged his siblings not to bring them from the beginning of the evening. However, despite this, all the sick little ones arrived with their parents. Once again, the parents chose to leave their children in my care, choosing to enjoy the evening alone. As a result, my children and I contracted an infection, causing us to miss the Halloween festivities, being trapped by sickness and fever. I reached out to the parents of my spouse's nieces and nephews with a message that clearly stated our conditions. It stated that bringing the children to our home, leaving them unattended, was no longer allowed. I emphasized that they must either stay with the children to take care of them themselves or not bring them at all, especially if the children were sick. My words were direct and clear. Dear son-in-law and daughter-in-law, please do not leave your children with us unless you plan to look after them yourself. I already have enough to worry about with my own children, and I can't take responsibility for yours. Also, please do not bring sick children to us. Our children missed Halloween due to an illness passed on by your children when we asked for your attention. I hope for your understanding and look forward to seeing your entire family at the next dinner. The message elicited various reactions in the family. My spouse's younger siblings expressed understanding of my position, supporting my frustration over having to take care of a large number of children without the proper number of adults. I feel that my position is justified. I should not have to take responsibility for other people's children. By providing my own home and treats for family dinners, I did not imply that I would provide the babysitting services without compensation. The situation outlined relates to an experience involving interaction in a family environment where specific relatives, namely the son-in-law and daughter-in-law, demonstrated a lack of responsibility. They chose to rely on other family members to care for their children instead of hiring professional help. The beginning of this story relates to an instance when I too faced an unpleasant situation due to my children's illness. I missed 10 days of Christmas vacation due to an illness passed on by my sister's child. I resent situations where parents bring sick children to family events expecting the host to take care of them. This behavior causes frustration and anger. As a result, a decision has been made to no longer host. I express my willingness to host a similar event in return, in which I am relieved of childcare responsibilities, allowing time for personal relaxation. The idea of personal communication with relatives is also suggested in order to explain their position and establish an understanding of the importance of communication and responsibility for the children in the family. Special attention is paid to the role of the spouse in this situation, who, being busy with cooking, also expects the relatives to contribute more to family meetings, not only in terms of looking after the children, but also in general contribution to the preparation of dinners. So, it is about the need for more active participation of all family members in the organization of family gatherings, including food preparation and childcare, to share responsibilities and make these moments enjoyable and comfortable for all participants. I suggest that if dinners involve the whole family, then the responsibility for the children should also fall on their parents. Alternatively, the idea of suspending such gatherings until common rules are established and clearly enforced is suggested. It is advised to give the family another chance, but with clearly defined expectations for the meetings. If the proposed changes are not accepted and the old order continues to prevail, a decisive step is suggested. In the absence of support from the husband, it is advised to leave the meeting place as soon as the first guests arrive, disconnect the phone and spend time alone, enjoying the peace. Such an action stands out as a principled position worth insisting on because of the accumulated disrespect for your boundaries and efforts. At times, it is necessary to take drastic action to restore respect and harmony in family relationships, even if it involves temporarily withdrawing from communication or changing the way things are done. This is an important step toward establishing healthy boundaries and mutual respect within the family circle. Next story. Currently, as a 22-year-old, I remember being moved from my mother's house at age 14 to my grandparents' house, who lived on the other side of the country. That move was a significant milestone in my life. By the time I turned 16, I had already started living on my own. Now my sister Jane is 28 years old. When I was 19, I received an invitation to her wedding, which I accepted, and traveled with my grandmother to the celebration. I tried to behave impeccably at the wedding, but the atmosphere of the party and the hospitality of those present gradually changed the course of events. When they started offering me alcohol, the situation got out of control. I ended up having an unexpectedly close encounter with one of the bartenders, and this moment took place in a rather secluded place, a storeroom. We were discovered in this position, which was the beginning of unintended consequences. After we were discovered in the pantry, a real commotion ensued, which resulted in me, along with my grandmother, being asked to leave the celebration. The situation escalated when my sister Jane, clearly unhappy with what had happened, accused me of allegedly deliberately trying to ruin her wedding. She quickly severed all ties with me, blocked me on social media, and flatly refused to engage in dialogue with me. 6 years have passed since then. Over the years, Jane made an attempt to renew our communication, but for me, it was all over. I had stopped trying to contact her much earlier, and when she reached out to me again, her message seemed full of self-pity, focused only on her experiences. I replied to her that I had no interest in rekindling our relationship. In response to my response, she abruptly informed me that she was pregnant and wanted to connect with loved ones before the baby was born. By refusing to resume communication with my sister and blocking her, I hoped to put this conflict behind me. However, despite my decision, the situation escalated when Jane continued to try to contact me through various channels. Surprisingly, her husband and his sister got involved and repeatedly tried to make contact despite my attempts to block them. When my grandmother heard about the situation, she advised me to act wisely and try to mend my relationship with my family. She argued that my reluctance to contact her was only making the situation worse. In addition, Grandma said that she had also been in contact with Jane, who was still a part of her life, and now that Jane was expecting a child, Grandma felt it was important for me to reevaluate my attitude toward what had happened. Support yourself by remembering that at age 16 you experienced severe intoxication and found yourself in the arms of a bartender. In the United States, where the age limit for working behind the bar is 21, wedding parties prefer to invite only experienced professionals. This indicates that that bartender likely had considerable life and professional experience. No one should have gotten angry with you. A situation where an obnoxious bartender was fired confirms that you are not the problem. The adults were entirely responsible for what happened, and each of them made a mistake. So why should you, being a child at the time, be held responsible for what happened? Your sister is the one who initially gave up on the relationship and now, 6 years later, is seeking to resume it, not because she realized her mistake or wants to make things right, but because she is expecting a child. However, it is not your responsibility to restore the relationship. Your sister independently violated the fundamental foundations of your relationship by excluding you from her life. This was far from a moral or fair response to what happened, which is absolutely ridiculous. How can adults expect children to act reasonably in situations where they themselves are subjecting them to the influence of alcohol without providing the opportunity for consent or the necessary life experience to make informed decisions? If someone decides to disclose past conflict by requesting contact information for all relatives, it could lead to public condemnation in the sister's circle of friends. This is not about the sister's reconsideration of decisions, but a desire to preserve her reputation, do damage control, and not lose face in front of her friends. There is probably also an expectation that you will be available to help with the kids so she can find time to relax. Now I want to tell a different story. My ex-wife and I decided to separate when our children were still teenagers. 7 years have passed since then. We now share custody of the kids equally. She remarried, but recently her new spouse left her. The details of their relationship are unknown and not particularly interesting to me. Apparently he was not a bad man, but they separated nonetheless. I am not aware of their financial problems or anything like that. She contacted me last week to ask for help with food. claimed she had exhausted her food budget for herself and the kids and begged for help. I asked for some time to think about it and called her back after talking to my current friend with whom I live with. We came to the decision that we could give some of our supplies away. We had plenty of meat in our freezer, elk, wild hog, and we also had a supply of beef, pork, and chicken in our pantry. When I offered to take a significant amount of these products to the ex, the reaction was unexpected. She refused the groceries, expressing a desire for money to order food through Uber Eats or something similar. I countered by explaining that I was willing to provide the groceries for a few weeks, but had no intention of giving money to order prepared food. She accused me of expecting her to be grateful for the groceries offered and expecting her to do solely housekeeping. Everything I offered included frozen meats, canned vegetables, fresh vegetables from our garden, and pasta and rice in airtight packages. I want my kids to eat quality food. They both know how to hunt, and my oldest son is an excellent cook and cooks for all of us at home on a regular basis. Both of my children are used to a diet that includes game and a variety of foods. I truly believed I was doing exactly what was asked of me. After talking to my friend, I decided not to bother her with food preparation. I texted the kids, asking them to let me know if they really needed food, promising to take care of it. They replied that there was enough food in the house, it just needed to be prepared. They also expressed a desire to accept a moose and pork roast from me, which cheered me up, and I promised to bring them back later. However, my ex is spreading the word that I am allegedly trying to manipulate her into a domestic lifestyle and refusing to buy food for the kids. Some people agree with her and call me an idiot for refusing to help. I'm sure I'm right, but wonder if I'm missing some important aspect. You are not wrong, and your generosity deserves respect. You have shown care by making sure your children are provided for by being with her. As far as criticizing you, you should not forget that you are no longer responsible for your ex-wife after your divorce. She is not your responsibility. To those who are judging you, I am referring to your offer to provide her and your children with free groceries. She refused, preferring to order food through Uber Eats at your expense, despite having groceries. There is no need to support her demands financially, especially if she asks for money under the pretense of needing food when you have already offered to help. In a shared custody environment, there is no obligation to fund her requests if she really needs support. There are other ways to get help, including government programs. Her reluctance to cook is understandable, but preferring to spend extra money on meal delivery services when it is possible to prepare meals at home seems unreasonable. This is especially true when those costs are expected to be covered by others. I have reason to believe that money requested under the guise of needing food may be misused. Your children don't seem to be as uncomfortable as your ex claims, and there are food supplies in the house. My next story. I come from a fairly friendly family. My brother married Liz about 11 years ago. They have 4 children in their family who are the joy of our lives. Liz is not the easiest person to deal with, but we all work hard to maintain harmony in the family for the sake of the children, whom we consider to be the brightest thing we have. Liz and I don't have the best relationship, but that's okay with me. The younger brother, Dylan, is now 22 years old. Since his release from prison and rehab, he's been living with me. He has endured a lot of trauma due to circumstances that were harder than what I faced when those around me found out about my orientation. Despite gusts of misunderstanding from the public, I have always stood in his defense. Dylan is not a threat. He is a man of integrity and in many ways reminds me of my nephews. This past weekend, while attending a birthday party for one of my nephews, the subject of a Thanksgiving celebration came up. My brother suggested holding it at our parents' house. Liz inquired if Dylan planned to come. I was surprised by her concern, given his recent struggles and sincere attempts to get back on track. Dylan had found a job at Subway and approached his probationary period with great responsibility. He has also taken his treatment seriously and plans to attend college after completing it. He realizes that his past is behind him and he is now open to support. Due to the trauma he has experienced and the shame of his past, he has sort of hidden from the public gaze. When I confidently announced his presence at the celebration, Liz disagreed, fearing that her children would be around an ex-offender. I tried to convince her that Dylan wasn't a threat, but she insisted, citing his past and his addiction. In response to her rebuke, I didn't hold back and expressed my opinion of her behavior, which led to more tension. My brother entered the conversation defending his wife and I was ready to defend my point of view in any form. Eventually, the other sister-in-law suggested we end this discussion, and I decided to leave, noting that I would see her at Thanksgiving in 6 days. Today, Friday, I received a message from my brother. He expressed concern that he felt I had frightened his wife and asked me to apologize to her. I replied that I would be happy to do so, but only after she herself apologized for her behavior, which I described as less than adequate. My brother responded by saying that she had no intention of apologizing. I suggested that he tell her that she could respond however she wanted to my words, or he could try to get me to apologize in person. This situation led to regret because my brother and I used to have a different, warm relationship. He reminded me that our lives are not the Jerry Springer show, emphasizing the seriousness of the situation by the fact that his words made Liz cry. There is a high level of tension and misunderstanding between family members in this situation. It is clear that everyone is stressed and in moments of heated discussion may express opinions and comments that in a calmer environment they would prefer to keep to themselves. Accusations and harsh words seem to fly in all directions and everyone tries to defend their point of view, not always choosing the best ways to do so. There is criticism of the way one of the participants in the dialogue defends his brother, suggesting that there are more constructive methods of support. Emotions run high, and the exchange of insults only exacerbates the situation. In such moments, words are often spoken that can wound deeper than they first appear. It is assumed that the disputants are not alone in their opinions about the brother's past, incarceration, and rehabilitation, and that it would be wise to stop arguing and learn how to support him more effectively. The rebuke of one of the brothers that his behavior is not contributing to his brother's rehabilitation and protection, but rather making his journey back into society even more difficult, suggests the need to rethink the approach to family interaction. Comments about age and maturity, and that some words spoken in an argument may contain a grain of truth, emphasize the complexity of the situation and the multiple perspectives on it. The mention that the behavior of one of the participants only complicates the situation for Dylan raises the question of how best to provide support so that it is truly helpful. Finally, it is noted that the upcoming Thanksgiving may be a test for the family, suggesting that the current disagreements may affect the overall holiday atmosphere, a story that really surprised me. I have a sister named Tessa. She's 25 years old. To be honest, I think I look better than her, and it has to do with my different attitudes towards self-care. While I prefer an active lifestyle and spare no expense on cosmetics for my skin and hair, Tessa cares less about her appearance. Her style of dressing and lack of grooming sometimes seems surprising to me, considering she has options for other choices. Every time we meet, Tessa makes comments about my appearance. If I share some positive news with her, she claims that my accomplishments are due to my good looks. I suspect this is due to her jealousy. Recently, when I told my family that I had passed the test for my professional license, Tessa's reaction was unexpected. She suggested that my success had nothing to do with merit and claimed that my successes were the result of privilege. She then blamed me for my lack of appearance and left the table, calling me an idiot. This incident led to a disagreement in the family. Your sister sounds like she is experiencing significant insecurity. It's important to remember that her self-esteem should not become a matter of vanity. Offering her well-meaning skincare tips can be a good place to start. Simple recommendations such as getting enough sleep, avoiding dehydration, and using a moisturizing face cream can offer solutions to her current predicament. This, in turn, can have a positive impact on her self-esteem. If she chooses not to follow this advice, the responsibility for the consequences falls on her shoulders. She will no longer be able to make the excuse that someone else in the family looks better. If you share with your family your efforts to support her health and appearance, it will be hard for them to blame anything. Jealousy ultimately does no good. Realizing that jealousy can be a driving force behind someone's words or actions is important. However, using hurtful qualifications toward another person is also not acceptable. As someone who has certain advantages due to looks, you should realize that sometimes it can actually play in your favor. It doesn't make you a less valuable person, but it does emphasize how the outside world can react to physical attributes. When it comes to health and appearance, each person has a different path. By reporting your own experiences with maintaining your health and weight through exercise and diet, you emphasize the importance of personal responsibility and effort. However, It is important to remember that criticism and comments can lead to negative emotional reactions such as feeling victimized or crying, which emphasizes the importance of empathy and support in communicating with loved ones.